It's your boy, 𝐿𝐴𝐾. Holla at your boys, Us TV, live and direct. You already know what it is. You feel me? I'm who you listen to right before you go to sleep, just so you can sleep on the wisdom, the wisdom. Say with clarity. Yeah, yep. And this is the topic. Debate, right? The debate of perspectives and the separation of enlightenment and know when to engage and when not to engage into certain topics, and not being overdrunk with power, knowledge, and information so that you're induced with an overindulgence of information to where you can't relate it to people out of your dimension that you created, so that we get to a level and we like, yo, I can't inform this information of elevation, right, to this certain crowd because they're not there yet, or they don't understand, or I'm trying to debate with you based off of how much information I know more than you. Cause it don't work like that. You feel me? Everyone got information based off of their environment, where they live at, and how they work things and how they put things together. So for instance, you got someone in the hood, right? He got more information than the person they ain't never been to the hood before, because he's enlightened based off of that realm of information that he was in, right? And he has the same information as someone that's in corporate America or someone that lived in the suburbs, but it's just being used in a different way. So really, you don't necessarily got to unlearn the information of how to make the transition from each world that's really a 360, because once you learn to adjust the same concepts of the basics, you can make a smooth transition. That's why they call it a learning curve. So not necessarily everybody got to go through a super shift of unlearning it all the way and then getting back to a certain level. We could take the learning curve of basically expediting the process of putting things together and make things make sense, right? Based off of how you digest the information, right? So for myself, I don't really debate with nobody, because I just seen an example, the sun and the moon. The sun can't beef with the moon because they both serve their purpose, right? There's a need of daytime and there's a need of nighttime. And the only differences between day and night is basically the usage of the time that's being applied in each setting that's being in the transition. So daytime and nighttime has really no difference. Only thing that's different about it is the shift of the measurement that time has allowed each setting to be displayed. But while each setting is being displayed, right, time usage is the same based off of the energy that you put in the time that's allowing you to become whoever you want to become, right? So the sun don't beef with the moon. You feel me? Stars don't beef with the earth because they're serving their purpose. And once you learn to connect the purposes and the usage of each, you'll allow it to let it use you in a way that you can reflect the environment and the art form that you're living in based off of how you see life and what the perception and the concepts are. You feel me? So there's no difference between the person that's living in low-income America and corporate America, because the person that's living in low-income America is high income based off the necessities and the expectations of living in that environment to be top tier in position of the hood. And then vice versa, there's a corporate ladder and there's a corporate structure that you may have to learn in order to get to a certain point. And there's evaluations that'll allow you to be in certain positions. And there's also an evaluation of self that allows you to learn the concept of the basics that'll put you in a position to not have to go through the tests and the evaluations that people need to feel as if they're qualified for the position in that realm of task because of socialism, positionism, and stuff like that, and evaluation of one's mind based off of a man-made test that told you that you were qualified to play that position. Those tests, there's also those tests that you do have to take in order for you to get to that position based off the choices that you make of wanting to get to that position. But you also have the choice of saying, like, I'm prepared based off experience. So sometimes when you go to a job and you sitting there and you go to a job and you go to a job interview and you go to school or maybe you have experience in the field and then you go to fill out a job application or you go to the interview and they say, yo, let me see your resume, right? Your resume. To me, that means you're resuming to be yourself, right? That's what it means to me. I make my own definition of it, because that just came to me, right? Like resume, right? Resume, right? Like I may based off of, I may be like politically incorrect, right? But that's what it means to me. So I have to be in a position where I'm resuming to be myself based off the experiences and skills that I bring to the table, because they're going to hire me for a position that I got the skills for, right? But then they're going to say, well, you don't have experience based off of your resume, right? On paper. But how will one get to display one's skills if I don't get tested in the environment of being qualified for that job, right? So one may see the surface of things and be like, you're not qualified to be in the position or to talk about these type of topics based off of the processes that's traditional to get to that level of being in that space and time of being in that position. But you don't really necessarily got to be qualified based off of traditional processes and teachings if you have the experience of oneself and of time. You know what I'm saying? Because so here's a breakdown. Here's a breakdown. A man that's going fishing, right? And he's a fisherman based off of sport. He's a bass fisherman, right? He has been taught the mechanics of how to be a fisherman based off the tools and the usage and the bait that each fisherman needs to get a fish, right? And basically he specializes in bass fishermen, right? He's a bass fisherman. You know what I'm saying? Your goal is to catch a bass. Some days you're going to catch a perch, trout, blues, flounders, stuff like that, depending on how you fish and what like that. You know what I'm saying? Sharks, whatever, right? But you have designated ways to fish, right? So there's rules, regulations of like how to catch a fish, what pound it got away, and a certain cities guidelines of how to of what fish is to be taken out of that region based off the scarcity and necessity of that type of fish. You know what I'm saying? But some people do it for sport, right? So a person that's taught how to fish and do it for a sport, right, goes out to fish because he wants to catch a fish at a certain weight and a certain size, right? But he be fishing all day and they can't catch nothing, right? Or he catch a certain amount, right? Then on the flip side, right, you have someone who doesn't know the mechanics of how to use a fishing pole, bail, how to flip a bail, how to cast, how to fly fish, and don't know none of that based off the sport of fishing. But then you have someone who knows how to fish based off of survival. So you got someone that lives in the Amazon and the rainforest that don't need a fishing pole, don't need none of that type of equipment to go get a fish. They know how to use nature, right, to bring in food for themselves because they're indigenous to the environment around them. So their environment taught them life skills on how to survive, how to elevate themselves to get to the next level, and how to put themselves in position to eat food. You feel me? So while you sitting there eating food and you sitting there putting yourself in position, you can't really compare and contrast a sports fisherman to a survival fisherman because they fishing for two different reasons. You feel me? For example, I went fishing one time myself, right? And I was taught to be a mechanical fisherman because that's my introduction into fishing, right? As far as the concept of fishing, that's what I was taught. So we went fishing, and for the whole time, I'm using the traditional baits, you feel me, and doing the traditional process of catching the fish, but it wasn't working. And then there's an old lady sitting next to me, right? She has just a string with a whole bunch of hooks, right? With mad bait, specialized bait that she got from her life experience or wherever she's from, or like her indigenous culture, country, wherever she came from, right? Boom. She has her own concepts, old lady. So every time I see her at the dock, she got a cigarette, a radio, a fishing line with a bunch of hooks on there, like 30, 40 hooks, a beach chair, and she just sitting there smoking a cig while the string is in the water, and she just chilling there, and she giving herself like, yo, let me sit here for like 2 or 3 hours. She listened to her TV show. While me on the other side, we going fishing. We bringing this on. Oh, I jumped the bait. Oh, I broke the bait. Oh, got one. Okay, we got one. 30 minutes ago, then we still going in, running out of bait. The worm got off. You know what I'm saying? All these different concepts. 2 hours later, we leaving. We leaving with a bucket. It's probably like 6 fish in there, 5, 6 fish. Maybe no, I ain't gonna. Yeah, maybe 5 to 10 fish in there, right? 5 to 10. We gonna call it that. Within her 2-hour increments, she probably goes in 30-minute shifts. 30 minutes of within those 2 hours. Each time she pull out the hook, it's like 30 fish on one line. So 30 times 4, that's 120, right? Yeah, right? That's like 120, right? So that's just, and I'm probably exaggerating, right? But say, for instance, she got 10 fish for every 30-minute increment, right? That's 10 times 4. That's 40. You feel me? She bringing home dinner. That's a day. That's each day. So everyone has a concept that they learn based off of the environment that they were placed in, based off of survival teachings and experiences and stuff like that. So it don't make sense to debate. It's only for the sport. I understand it for the sport and challenging one's mind to think a certain way and being, as of a professional so that you can deliver and receive information and challenge one's minds to see things in different perspectives, but not to the point where it's making you like upset to the point where, you know what I'm saying, you thinking that I'm not qualified or someone else is not qualified based off their lack of your experience, you know what I'm saying? Based off of, because it's like another example, you got someone that go to play basketball. He know how to dribble with like 8 basketballs at one time. He do tricks and all of that shit, right? But he ain't getting no buckets. You feel me? He dribble all over the doing all of that. He don't get no buckets. You feel me? Someone who's strong and he goes to the gym and they super built up, got muscles and stuff like that, but he ain't getting no buckets. You feel me? Someone like myself, I focus on getting buckets. I focus on getting to the point. I'm focusing on not the breakdown of, I'm not trying to study the whole chart to its entirety of this, that, and the third and get caught up in the terms and the technology and all of that stuff. I'm going to look at the chart and say, that is the point where it makes money. And that's what I want. That's what I want to be a part of. I want to get to a point where it's something I'm still working on. I'm always working on. Any hustle that I've ever made myself a part of, right? I want to get to the point where, that point of, okay, that is the money making point right there. So I don't want to get caught up into this super terminology of what it is to articulate the experience of how to break the whole format down. You feel me? You have people that are like, that's people for that. You feel me? And there's nothing wrong with that. And that's just the basis of like what I'm talking about is some people are into the technicality of the processes. And then there's also, once you understand the technicality of the processes, you got to understand how to make it simple. Right? And that's something that that's something that I always had instinctively, and also something that someone made me aware about because they told me how to make it simple and how to make it clean and how to make it pop, as far as making an instinctive decision, not worrying about if you're right or wrong, but making the decision so that you know how to elevate from that decision-making process of how to get to the next level of understanding or overstanding the concept. You feel me? Because you can overanalyze and just become a regurgitator. And a regurgitator that's basically saying like, you have a well full of information that you're just regurgitating, but you don't apply it. So my concept is applying the information so that when I am expressing it, I can tie things together so that it makes sense in a way that I can deliver it in simple form that's ABC. So I don't want to deliver the information and debate with you only if you're telling me that I'm wrong. You feel me? And we've all been in that concept because we all get like drunk off of knowledge and information because we like, okay, I just learned this new concept and here's a way that I know that works. But sometimes there's people that like, they don't want to see the way that works. So they don't want to see the way that works. And we're like, okay, how do I express to you that it works? Like if you meditate, it works. If you write this down, it works. If you do push-ups, you're gonna get a bigger chest. You feel me? If you like have the diet of your body, the diet of your mind, it works. Or if you can whatever process that you're a part of, that you're moving towards, or you're intrigued by, or you decide to do, you're like, okay, I know that it works, but then we get caught up in the one-dimensional way of thinking that there's only one way to do the process, and that process has to be done the way that we see the process being done, and then it gets caught up in the debate, then it get caught up into an argument, and then it's like meant to speak the way that you wanted to speak, but it's really not meant that you wanted to get about. You feel me? You feel me? Did that make sense? Like, you feel me? Like, you gotta think about it like that. So it prevents you from having an argument, because you gotta realize that, okay, your concept might be cool, but it just don't work for me. Or you feel me? Or are you willing to learn this concept so that when the time comes and there becomes a blockage in your concept, you can apply a different concept to get to the same avenue or answer, so that you can make your repertoire, your resume, and your profile substantial and full of color and dimensions, so that you're not locked in a box, or you don't get like writer's block, or you can't express yourself in a certain way where you can't talk about another avenue of getting to where you want to get to. So that's why the concept of the sun and the moon, they have to coexist, and they do coexist for different reasons based off of the usage and time that you allow yourself to be a part of within that process of day and night. Because the sun and the moon are a necessity, because you could, the sun could be out right now, you still living in darkness. You feel me? It could be nighttime, but you got a clarity of vision and you can see in the dark. You feel me? You can go be in the nighttime in certain situations, in certain different places, and be frightened. Right? You go to certain places in the nighttime based off your concept and perspective and be safe. It's just the usage of time and what your perception is and what you allow your mind and your eyes to see, and based off of like your experiences and your trauma and stuff like that. So you're going to want to go in certain places because it's dark and lonely. But then you like being in spaces that's dark and lonely because that's your time of meditation. So what's the concept of like you figuring out the concept of the illusion of the barriers that society puts on you based off your concepts and your perceptions and your upbringing of your parents. You feel me? Communicating with your parents and your forefathers and your ancestors, and the trauma that they had to live through that's been passed down to you, so that these concepts don't affect you in a way that affected them, because you're able to see beyond the blockages and the borders that they had to fight through. You feel me? So that's why you gotta allow yourself to be in that space of darkness. And people be thinking that you just elevated to be thinking like this, and you just started thinking. I've been thinking like this. I always thought like this. But it's hard to express a perspective, right, that I had to learn how to express and learn when not to express the shit, because I always thought like this. You feel me? But some people don't believe in certain concepts, and certain people don't believe in the processes of getting to that space. You feel me? And if we study these scriptures and these verses of these characters that we believe in, and they live in the same exact story, right? And we don't what do you call it, embrace those concepts, right? That was used for what do you call those? It was used for guidelines of direction, right? Like the roadmaps to guidance to oneself. And we all read from the beginning of these stories to the ending of these stories and the outcome of what it took each person to get from one end to the next end. And people see you living the same exact way and doing the same thing and being a part of that story and be like, nah, you're not supposed to live like this, or you're not doing it right. But I'm like, yo, I'm living the same way that I just read about these characters in these books that they've gave us, right? That we use as a guideline to get to a certain level. I'm actually living like that. But the modern day way of the pressures in societies and stuff like that has put us in a box to where that you don't want to finish the process of A to Z. You feel me? So certain person get to a certain level or a certain aspect and they be like, yo, I'm here. After I get to a certain checkpoint or I get to a certain reward, if you know me, I'm going to, like, you know, burn out my desires, reward myself, and my real reward is getting back in the gym, getting back in the studio, go back to learning how I could have did better on the next one, or on the next how I could have did better from the next situation, or the last freestyle, or the last money transaction, or how I could work out my body, diet my body, clean out my system, or how I could get to a certain point or direction, or how I could articulate myself in different ways. Like, there's a point where you soak up info. That's why my brand is called Late Bloomers, because it's the point of, like, the whole concept is to soak up information so that you soaked up so much information to the point where when you're placed in that time of experience, the downloads that you have from way back when start to bloom and blossom, right? At that point in time that you planted that seed, right? So it's really that you're not really late. You're just on time with the time that you invested in your mind and your body and your soul and your process to get to that level of being free in the way you think and how you feel and stuff like that, and not letting your emotions dictate your emotions to the point where you don't like what you're doing for the most part. You know what I'm saying? Because we're human, and we're not we gonna have those moments of, like, eruption and stuff like that. But for the most part, we're gonna say, like, okay, yo, let me channel my energy to this, and I could transmute it to my art so that my art can be the vessel of expression that doesn't turn into, like, physical destruction. You know what I'm saying? And you can use these moments to allow yourself to be an example of your unique expression. You feel me? So that's why the sun and the moon and the sun, you feel me, and the stars and stuff like that, they have to coexist, and they have different usage based off your usage of that time and space that they transition. And they really don't transition because they stay. They're in this. It's moving, right? Or is it moving? You know what I'm saying? Because we're just seeing it from different angles. You feel me? We're always seeing it from different angles, but it's always going to exist. So it's always going to be there. You feel me? It's always going to be there. But as the moon and the sun is changing and you're seeing it from different angles, what you doing with that? You feel me? Did you sun gaze? Are you howling at the moon? You feel me? Like, what are you doing? So it's just a concept. You know, I heard something on my timeline, and I wanted to express that. And the concept of, building, I'm open to build with the best of them. You feel me? Or, let's chop it up. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Let's exchange information. I'm all about that. Don't be fooled by my ruggedness. You feel me? I'm just like you. Reflection. But you already know, see? Event came on. Holla at your boy, 𝐿𝐴K, Jazz America. Up, down, left, right. You already know what it is. Us TV. Live from the futon. Holla at your boy, man. Y'all have a great night. Meditate on that. Holla at your boy. Link in bio. You already know what it is. Us TV, Jazz America.